It's a very strange thing when you decide not to respond to someone who survives on controlling you, on pulling your attention, on feeding off your emotional reactions. That is what narcissists do. They live on the energy of your response. And when you finally truly decide to step away, to go no contact, and you keep it going not just for a few days, but for weeks, months, even years, something very powerful begins to happen. Silence starves the narcissist of control and validation. That might sound simple, but if you look at it closely, you begin to see that this idea goes right to the heart of what it means to deal with narcissistic behavior. The narcissist is not fueled by truth, honesty, or real human connection. They are fueled by attention. And not just any kind of attention. They live off the attention they can twist, shape, and manipulate to support their fragile sense of superiority. They need constant validation to keep alive the illusion that they are important, special, and in control. Without that, the structure of their identity starts to weaken. Now think about what silence really is. Silence is not just the lack of words or the lack of interaction. It is the choice to stop playing the game. It is the choice to walk away from the stage where the narcissist has always been the main character and you've always been pushed into the supporting role. And this choice is deeply upsetting to them because silence removes the very fuel they use to survive. Picture a fire that has been burning for years, feeding on dry wood and steady oxygen, growing bigger and bigger, eating everything in its way. Silence is like cutting off the oxygen. The fire does not go out in 1 second. It pops, sparks, and flares up in resistance. But slowly it starts to fade. The flames shrink. And eventually the fire that once looked impossible to stop loses its power. For the narcissist, silence is the oxygen being taken away. They are used to getting a reaction. It might be anger, fear, guilt, panic, or even compliance. To them, it doesn't matter if your reaction is positive or negative. What matters is that they are still at the center of your focus. When you choose silence, you take away the arena where they dominate. They can shout, plot, and try to work through other people. But none of it has the same impact if you are no longer there to feed it. That is why silence feels so dangerous and threatening to them. It is not passive. It is an active, deliberate removal of their lifeline. At first, you may think silence is weak, that you are avoiding, that you might look scared. But that is not what is really happening. Silence, when faced with narcissistic manipulation, is not weakness. It is a strong refusal to play a game that is rigged against you. It is the understanding that every word you speak, every explanation you give, every emotional answer you provide is another brick laid in the prison they built around you. Silence is the breaking down of those walls by refusing to add even one more stone. And the narcissist feels this loss deeply. They may never admit it because their entire image is built on acting like nothing can touch them, but under that mask, there is a heavy dependence. They lean on you more than you ever leaned on them. That is the painful irony. You may have thought for years that they had the power, that they were in charge, that you were trapped under their control. But the moment you step into silence, the illusion starts to break. You begin to see that their whole existence is parasitic. They cannot survive in a psychological sense without an audience. And when you withdraw, you become the first person in their life that they cannot bend to their will. Think also about what silence does inside you. The beginning, it feels unnatural. You want to speak. You want to defend yourself. You want to argue back, to make them understand, to correct their lies. But none of that has ever truly worked because narcissists are not looking for the truth. They are looking for victory. Silence teaches you that you do not have to play their game at all. It teaches you self-control, patience, and the strength to stand your ground. It takes away the automatic need to answer, and it shows you a strength inside yourself that was always there but maybe never used. Silence is discipline. Silence is courage. Silence is you taking your energy back and refusing to pour it into someone who will never respect it. From the narcissist side, this silence is unbearable. It is not just that they miss hearing your voice. They miss the control they had over it. They become restless, irritated, and desperate. They might attack more harshly than ever, exactly because they can feel the oxygen being removed. But the more they scream into the silence, the clearer it becomes to you that their power was never as strong as you once believed. Silence shows you the cracks in their armor. It shows you that their confidence was always fragile, that their control was always borrowed from your willingness to react. And when you no longer take part, their inner empire starts to collapse from the inside out. The longer no contact goes on, the stronger their desperation becomes. At first, when you pull away from a narcissist, they usually react with disbelief. They are sure it's temporary, that you will come back, that you will give in to guilt, fear, or pressure. They have trained themselves to believe that you cannot live without them because that belief makes them feel important. So when no contact starts, their first response is to wait. They feel certain your silence is only a phase, that sooner or later you will break. But as the days become weeks and the weeks turn into months, a new reality starts to creep in, and that reality eats at them from the inside. The narcissist depends on a cycle: contact, conflict, control, and reconciliation. It is a loop that keeps them fed, keeps them validated, keeps them feeling alive. When you stay silent, that loop is broken. First, they try to fix it by reaching out, small messages, pretending to check on you, suddenly acting concerned about your health or life. If that does not work, they increase the intensity. They might try to provoke you, annoy you, or hurt you just to pull out some emotion. Because to them, even your anger is better than your silence. Silence is an empty space, and that emptiness terrifies them. It forces them to face themselves, something they have avoided their entire life. As the silence grows longer, their desperation grows right along with it. They move from subtle manipulation into open chaos. They might try smear campaigns, turning other people against you, hoping social pressure will drag you back. They may play the victim, telling stories that paint you as cold, cruel, or mentally unstable because they cannot accept that you walked away with strength and intention. All of this is aimed at breaking your silence, at opening a small crack in your wall so the cycle can start again. The longer no contact stays in place, the more your absence becomes a mirror for them. That mirror reflects something they cannot stand, that they are not necessary. Every day that passes without your attention chips away at the story they tell about themselves. If they were really as powerful, as magnetic, as special as they claimed, then why haven't you come back? If they were truly in control, then why does your silence continue? These questions are unbearable for them because they reveal how weak their identity really is. Their desperation grows because your silence proves that the foundation of their persona is built on lies. What is interesting about this entire process is how time slowly turns the tables. In the beginning, the narcissist is sure that you are the one suffering. They assume you feel empty without them, that your silence is just a trick, not a deep choice. But as weeks turn into months, they begin to sense that maybe you are not suffering the way they imagined, that maybe you are feeling calmer, clearer, and freer without their chaos. That idea is intolerable to them because it means they have lost not only their control over you, but also their special place in your story. And for a narcissist, there is no bigger injury than being removed from someone else's narrative. Their desperation comes in cycles. They may disappear on purpose, telling themselves that if they vanish, you will come chasing them. But when you don't, they come back with more intensity. They might flood you with messages, suddenly show up nearby, or find ways to sneak back into your life through mutual people. Every attempt is a move to restart the old contact. Every failure increases their fear. Over time, as no contact stretches longer and longer, they begin to unravel. Their tactics become more dramatic. Their false sense of superiority begins to break, and their inner emptiness becomes harder to hide. They may search for new supplies, new people to use, desperate to fill the hole. But no matter how many new people they pull in, your silence remains a reminder of the one person they could not control. This is why their desperation grows with time, because every day that you keep your boundary is proof that their power over you is gone. And that truth is something they cannot stand. In this unraveling, something else becomes visible. The narcissist's biggest fear was never your anger. It was never your arguments or your resistance. Their greatest fear has always been your absence, because absence cannot be argued with. It cannot be twisted. It cannot be guilted. It cannot be pulled back into their frame. The longer you stay absent, the more they are forced to wrestle with themselves. And for a narcissist, there is no worse punishment than that. Without your reaction, the fake identity they built starts to crumble. A narcissist's whole sense of self is not built on inner truth or stability, but on external reflections from other people. They live like an actor on stage who believes the applause from the crowd is the same thing as their worth. As long as people are clapping, they feel alive. But the applause is never enough. It has to keep going. Without it, the actor stands alone under the lights, exposed, unsure of who they are when the show is over. That is the narcissist condition. They require constant reactions: anger, fear, admiration, even disgust. These reactions tell them they exist. When those reactions disappear, when you step into silence and no longer give them that feedback, their carefully created sense of self begins to fall apart. Their identity is not real or solid. It is a mask built over years of manipulation, denial, projection, and performance. They pick traits they want others to admire, exaggerate them, and force them onto people. They take traits they cannot stand in themselves, push them away, and dump them onto others. Over time, this mask becomes their survival tool. They present themselves as powerful, smart, superior, or deeply wounded and victimized, whichever role helps them get the most attention. But none of it is stable. It all depends on other people echoing back to them the image they want to see. When you withdraw your reaction, you take away a mirror they depend on. If they see themselves as the one, always in control, but you no longer respond to their controlling behavior, that image weakens. If they see themselves as the eternal victim, but you no longer rush in with comfort and rescue, that role stops working. If they see themselves as admired and envied, but you stop acknowledging their performance, the illusion breaks. Every piece of their self-image depends on another person agreeing to play along. Your absence doesn't just bother them, it shakes the very ground of their identity. The collapse of that identity does not happen in one moment. At first, they hold on to the mask with denial. They tell themselves that your silence doesn't matter, that you are nothing, that they never needed you. But denial is thin armor. It does not last. As time moves on, the cracks grow larger. They start to feel the emptiness underneath the mask, the hollow space they have spent their whole life running from. That emptiness scares them because it reminds them that under the performance there is nothing firm, nothing whole, nothing truly theirs. And without a constant stream of validation from others, they cannot keep that truth away. The breakdown of their identity often shows up as more and more strange behavior. They may lash out in random ways, trying to trigger a reaction that will put them back in control. They bounce quickly between roles. One day the angry ruler, the next day the helpless victim. The next day, the charming seducer, always searching for something that works. But the more they try and fail, the more unstable they feel. It is like the mask has shattered into many pieces, and they are desperately trying to glue it back together, only to discover that the parts no longer fit. What makes this so revealing is that it shows just how dependent they always were on other people. You may have believed for a long time that they were confident, sure of themselves, untouchable. You may have thought they held the power, that they set the rules, that you were the one who needed them. But when you stop reacting, the entire picture falls apart. You begin to see that their confidence was just a reflection of your reaction, that their power was something you gave them, that their identity was kept alive only because you agreed to reflect it back. Without your involvement, the structure they showed the world begins to turn into dust. This collapse is not just painful for them. It is deeply destabilizing. They do not know who they are without someone else telling them. They cannot sit in quiet and reflect. They cannot build a real self from the inside. Their whole life has been an escape from that inner work. And so, when your reaction disappears, they are pushed closer and closer toward the truth they have always avoided, that their identity is not real, not strong, and not able to survive on its own. It is a performance, and without an audience, it fades. In response, they cycle through rage, manipulation, and victimhood to pull you back. When a narcissist feels the grip of no contact closing in, when they sense their usual methods of control are slipping away, they don't simply accept it. They can't. To accept it means to admit defeat, and the idea of losing is a direct threat to the core of their existence. So instead, they move through repeating patterns of behavior, shifting from anger to trickery to self-pity, all aimed at pulling you back into their orbit. These patterns are not random. They are well practiced, shaped over years, and used to trigger the exact emotions that bring you closer again. Their first reaction is often rage. Rage is the narcissist's way of telling you that you have broken the silent rules of their control. It is an explosion designed to scare you, to shock you, to make you feel guilty for resisting. This rage can show up as verbal attacks, spreading lies about you, threats, or calculated outbursts meant to remind you of the power they think they have over you. They expect you to shrink back, to be overwhelmed, to fall into the role of the one who calms them, explains, or apologizes. Many times in the past, this has worked. Rage is their hammer. They use it because they know it can break weak boundaries. But when their anger fails to bring you back, they switch to manipulation. This manipulation may be wrapped in charm, sweet words, and promises to change. They might say everything you always wished they would say, that they finally understand, that they will do better, that they see the damage they've caused. Suddenly, they might act like the perfect partner, friend, or family member, giving you attention and kindness in ways they never did before. This is sometimes called hoovering. It is designed to pull you back with hope, to make you think that maybe this time will be different. The manipulation is a carefully staged play meant to lower your guard and make you question your silence. It tempts you to break no contact. If manipulation also fails, they shift into victimhood. Now they become the wounded one. They act as if they are the one truly suffering, the one being abandoned, the one treated unfairly. The person who once screamed at you now cries and begs. They might claim they are deeply depressed, that they cannot live without you, that you are cruel for leaving them. They may invent crises, exaggerate their pain, or send messages through others to tell you how badly they are doing. This tries to pull on your empathy, your kindness, your heart. They know your soft spots and they use them against you. They know you don't like seeing people hurt. They know you care, and they exploit that without mercy. These cycles of rage, manipulation, and victimhood can repeat over and over. One day they attack, the next they charm, the next they beg. Each shift is meant to confuse you, wear you down, and test which tactic will finally work. It is not about love. It is not about real healing. It is entirely about control. Every tactic is a planned move to gain dominance again, to make sure they are once more at the center of your emotional world. What makes these cycles especially damaging is how unpredictable they are. You never know which version of them you're going to get. The rage makes you anxious and scared. The manipulation fills you with doubt and hope. The victim act hits your compassion. The inconsistency is part of the trap because it keeps you constantly guessing, thinking, analyzing, and reacting. By cycling through these roles, the narcissist keeps you emotionally hooked, always giving them the fuel they need. Over time, however, when no contact is held firmly, these cycles start to lose their impact. Their anger echoes into emptiness. Their smooth words fall without a response. Their stories of suffering are met with silence. The longer this continues, the more chaotic their efforts become. They may increase the level of their attacks, turn to larger campaigns against you, or use more dramatic manipulations. Each increase shows how empty they feel inside, how lost they are without control, and how dependent their so-called strength has always been. These cycles are their last attempts to restore the old loop with you. Rage, manipulation, and victimhood are not random moods. They are survival tools they have relied on. When you refuse to respond, those tools slowly stop working. The collapse of these patterns is guaranteed when you no longer give them what they want. But their struggle to keep these patterns going shows how deeply they rely on them and how weak their sense of real power truly is. While they are unraveling, your consistency in silence begins to turn into strength and self-respect. At the start, silence feels shaky. It is uncomfortable, unnatural, and painful. You are used to answering, explaining, trying to make peace. You may feel that not replying is wrong, that it means you are running away. The narcissist has trained you to believe that you must always show up, that you owe them responses and explanations no matter what. So when you first choose silence, it may feel like breaking some unspoken rule. But as time passes, the picture shifts. The act of staying silent, of staying firm in front of their manipulation, becomes a deep source of strength. The power of consistency is in discipline. Every time you decide not to respond, you show yourself that you can control where your energy goes. You are no longer handing it over to someone who abuses it. You are no longer wasting your words on someone who will twist them. That consistency builds mental and emotional muscle, and that strength is the opposite of the dependence they tried to put in you. What once felt like emptiness becomes clarity. You begin to understand that silence is not nothing. Silence is space. It is the space where you can breathe, think, and reconnect with yourself without their voice in your head. This steady silence is noticed by the narcissist, even if they pretend not to. They expect you to break, to give in, to respond eventually. Every day you maintain silence proves them wrong. Every time you don't answer, their control grows weaker. It becomes not only a victory for you, but also a heavy blow to them. For someone who believes they can manipulate anyone, your silence becomes a quiet rebellion. And with time, that rebellion grows stronger, not in words, but in the undeniable fact that you no longer follow their commands. Self-respect slowly rises out of this practice. At first, you may not feel it, but it grows with every boundary you hold. By choosing silence, you're telling yourself that your peace matters more than their drama, that your dignity matters more than their games, that your healing matters more than their demands. You are no longer allowing them to decide how you feel. That change is huge because it gives back something they tried to destroy, your sense of worth. They fed off convincing you that you were not enough without them, that your value depended on how well you served them, that your identity was tied to their approval. Silence breaks that lie. It is a wordless statement that you are enough without them, that you do not need their validation, that you refuse to let their distorted version of you define who you are. As you continue, you start to notice small shifts within yourself. The anxiety that once shot up every time they called or sent a message begins to fade. The urge to explain or defend becomes weaker. You start to trust yourself more because you can see you are capable of setting and maintaining limits. That trust turns directly into self-respect. Instead of waiting for them to respect you, you are now respecting yourself. That respect does not come from their approval, but from your own discipline, your persistence, and your decision not to tolerate dysfunction anymore. What is surprising is that silence over time starts to feel less like effort and more like freedom. The longer you keep it, the less you are tempted to break it. Where before you had to fight the urge to respond, now you feel stronger for not doing so. Where you once felt guilty for cutting off contact, now you feel proud that you protected yourself. This change is not instant, but it is deep. It changes how you see yourself. You no longer see yourself as someone trapped in their loop. You see yourself as someone who can walk away, who can choose calm over chaos, who values their energy over someone else's demands. To the narcissist, your silence is seen as defiance, and in one way it is. But it is not defiance from anger. It is defiance from dignity. You do not need to scream, argue, or prove anything. The silence itself is evidence. It is living proof that you are no longer under their control, that you no longer need them to feel whole. The stability of that silence becomes your shield, and the self-respect that grows from it becomes your reward. As they come apart, you find your freedom and take back your life. This is not an instant process. It begins quietly as you create distance from their chaos. At first, the silence feels heavy. Their absence feels strange, as if you have lost something familiar, even if that something was damaging. You may replay old moments, wonder if you made the right decision, or fear that the silence will leave too big of a hole. But slowly the weight starts to lift. What once felt like a void begins to feel like open space. And in that open space, a new possibility appears: freedom. Their unraveling is not just about them losing control over you. It is also about you gaining clarity about yourself. Every outburst they throw into the silence, every manipulation that no longer works, every fake plea you ignore becomes proof that you do not belong in their cycle anymore. You begin to see the unhealthy patterns more clearly. The gaslighting, the control, the subtle jabs, the constant twisting of reality. All of it becomes obvious once you step back. Distance reveals what closeness hides. As they sink deeper into desperation and their tactics stop working, your awareness grows stronger. You begin to see them not as the powerful force they pretended to be, but as fragile, needy, and stuck in their own illusions. Freedom, in this sense, is not just cutting them out. It's getting your choice back. For a long time, your choices were shaped by what they might say or do. Your decisions were filtered through fear and anticipation of their reaction. You lived inside an invisible cage, moving carefully so you wouldn't trigger their anger or disappointment. As they lose influence, that cage starts to dissolve. You realize you can act without measuring their reaction. You can speak without worrying how they will twist it. You can think without constantly checking if your thoughts will upset them. That is freedom, the return of your autonomy. Taking your life back happens in simple moments that might seem small at first. It might be the first morning you wake up without feeling dread, the first time you focus on a goal without hearing their criticism in your head, the first time you enjoy a laugh without fearing punishment for being happy. These moments add up. Slowly, the life you are living stops revolving around them and begins to belong to you again. Their unraveling and your rebuilding run side by side. Each day they lose a bit more hold over you, and each day you gain a bit more strength. The beauty of this process is that you begin to see yourself more clearly than before. When you were with them, your identity was blurred. You were forced into their chosen roles: caretaker, supporter, scapegoat, admirer. Your true self hid under layers of their expectations. But in the quiet after their influence, you are free to rediscover who you really are. You remember passions and values that you pushed down. You recall dreams you let go because they did not fit into their story. You begin to build a life that is shaped by your choices, not theirs. And with every step forward, the hold of the past weakens. Their unraveling might look dramatic from the outside. They may seem broken, chaotic, or lost. But for you, it is the opening of a door. It proves that their power was never real on its own. It always depended on your cooperation. By taking that away, you have undone the illusion. And in watching their collapse, you gain not only freedom, but wisdom. You now understand how manipulation works, how control disguises itself as care, how fake strength hides deep fear. This understanding becomes protection, making it far less likely you will repeat the same pattern with someone else. Taking your life back after such a connection is not about revenge. It is not about proving anything to them. It is about finally living without their constant pull. It is about waking up to a life that feels truly yours. It is about reclaiming your time, your energy, your dignity, and your peace. What was once spent on their drama can now go toward your growth. Where you were once limited by their control, you are now free to build something real. In the end, their unraveling is not just their fall, it is your release. It is the space where you finally discover that the life they tried to control was always still yours, waiting for you to return to it. Ladies and gentlemen, picture yourself standing in front of a mirror. You've spent years trying to be kind, patient, and understanding towards someone who gives you almost nothing in return. You've explained away their actions, absorbed their blame, and convinced yourself that if you were just a bit nicer, more patient, more flexible, maybe they would change. But they don't. People who deal with narcissists often fall into the habit of constantly chasing their approval, sometimes without even realizing it. This happens because narcissists are very good at making you feel like their opinion is the ultimate measure of your worth. They place themselves above you, quietly or openly, and train you to want their recognition. This doesn't happen in one day. It is slow, a slow airing down of your self-trust, leaving you in a place where you question yourself over and over. The more you look for their approval, the more power you give them, and the more you build up their sense of superiority. Narcissists live by a system where their needs, desires, and opinions always come first. If you get stuck trying to obtain their approval, you will find yourself bending your beliefs, adjusting your behavior, and reshaping your values just to fit their constantly changing expectations. The problem is that their approval is never real or secure. It is a moving target, changing based on their mood, their ego, and their need for control. One day they might praise you for something, the next day they might insult you for the exact same thing. This inconsistency is not an accident. It keeps you chasing, trying to figure out what you must do to finally earn their lasting acceptance. Narcissists use a pattern called intermittent reinforcement. They give you small drops of approval now and then, just enough to keep you hooked, just enough to make you think that if you try a bit harder, you will finally get what you deserve. But that complete acceptance never comes. They pull it away as quickly as they give it, and you are left scrambling to get that feeling back. It becomes like gambling, where the rare wins keep you playing a game designed so you will never really win. Another layer of this trap is the illusion that their approval has some great authority. They act as if their view of you is the truth, as if their opinion decides whether you are good enough. capable enough, or worthy enough. But if you step back, you see that this authority is self-made. They gave it to themselves. They are not qualified to decide your value. They do not have some special power to judge who you are. Still, as long as you keep seeking their approval, you are feeding the L, i.e., that they do. When you chase a narcissist's approval, you also believe, often unconsciously, that their judgment is based on reality. It is not. Their view of you is shaped entirely by their own needs, fears, and hidden motives. They criticize you not because you are truly wrong or broken, but because keeping you unsure and insecure benefits them. They hold back praise not because you don't deserve it, but because controlling when you receive it keeps you attached to them. Their opinion of you is not fair or honest. It is a tool used to keep you small. Many people keep trying to win a narcissist's respect because they hope that someday their effort will be rewarded. They believe that if they are loyal enough, patient enough, or loving enough, eventually the narcissist will wake up, realize their worth, and finally treat them well. But that day never comes. Narcissists don't want equal respect. They want control. They want to stay above you. They want to be the one who decides what is right, what is wrong, what is worthy, and what is not. You might also have been trained from childhood to believe that seeking approval is good, that being liked and accepted is the main way to feel safe and successful. This can make it harder to see when that desire is being used against you. In normal, healthy relationships, mutual approval grows from respect and care, but with a narcissist, seeking their approval is not kindness. It is a trap. It is exactly what keeps you stuck. Narcissists can sense when someone is hungry for validation. They know how to spot this vulnerability. They will use it to get control. They will hold back approval when you need it most, making sure you stay emotionally dependent on them. Not by mistake. It is planned, whether they are conscious of it or not. And even when they give you a small dose of approval, it is rarely unconditional. Us. Yuli comes with strings. You must keep serving their needs, keep putting them first, keep bending yourself to fit them. The longer you chase their approval, the more you drift away from your own sense of worth. You stop asking, how do I feel about myself? And start asking, how do they feel about me? You stop trusting your own judgment and instead wait for their reaction to tell you whether you did something right. This is dangerous because their reaction is not based on truth. It is based on control. At a deeper level, seeking approval from a narcissist often comes from unhealed pain. Maybe in your past, love was conditional. Maybe you had to earn attention or acceptance by behaving in certain ways. If so, narcissists are drawn to this wound. They will give you just enough attention to mirror that pattern, making you feel like their approval is the missing piece you've been searching for all your life. But it is just a repeat of an old injury. Their approval doesn't heal you, it hurts you more. You cannot heal by chasing the same pattern that wounded you. The approval of a narcissist is empty. It doesn't come from love, it comes from their need to feel above you. This is why recognizing the pattern is so important. You cannot change a narcissist by proving yourself. You cannot earn their respect by giving more of yourself. You will never reach a point where they suddenly wake up and value you in the way you deserve. As long as you chase their approval, you are playing a game where they control the rules, and they have no intention of letting you win. Setting strong boundaries with a narcissist is not only about saying no, it is about taking back control over your life. Narcissists like to blur lines. They test limits little by little to see how much they can take from you, your time, your energy, your peace, before you push back. And when you do push back, don't stop. They take it as a challenge and increase the pressure until you give in. Weak or changeable boundaries do not work with narcissists. If they see that you back down even a little, they will use that same weak point again and again. This is why firm boundaries cannot just be spoken, they must be backed by action. A boundary is not real if it is not enforced. If you say, I will not let you talk to me like that, but you stay in the conversation while they insult you, they learn that your words are empty. They do not see a line, they see an opening. Another common mistake is over-explaining. When you explain your boundary again and again, you are inviting them to argue. You give them space to twist your words, make you feel selfish, and attack your reasons. Narcissists can play with your guilt and your sense of responsibility until you give up and drop the boundary. This is why the strongest boundaries are simple and firm. I won't stay in a conversation where I am being yelled at. If it happens, I will leave. That is a real boundary. It does not allow debate. It does not ask for permission. It simply states what will happen. You will face resistance. Narcissists do not like boundaries. They believe they are entitled to full access to you, your emotions, your time, and your mental space. When you start setting limits, they feel it as an insult. They will try to break your boundaries any way they can. They might respond with anger, guilt trips, silent treatment, or sudden kindness. All of this is meant to make you doubt yourself, to make you think your boundaries are causing too many problems. The emotional backlash is often intense. If you have spent years tolerating their behavior, suddenly standing firm will feel strange and uncomfortable. You may feel guilty or selfish. You might worry you are being too harsh. But peace that depends on you ignoring why. Our own needs is not real peace. It is submission. The key is consistency. You cannot set a boundary today and ignore it tomorrow. Inconsistency tells the narcissist that your limits can be worn down if they push long enough. So each time the line is crossed, you have to respond in the way you promised. If you said you will end the call if they start shouting, you must hang up when they yell. If you said you won't tolerate lies, there must be real changes in how you interact when they lie. Your actions have to match your words. Emotional detachment is also important. Narcissists will try to drag you into emotional arguments because when you are reactive, you are easier to control. They want you to get angry, cry, or explain yourself endlessly. When you detach emotionally, you stop giving them that power. You do not need them to agree that your boundaries are fair. You do not need them to understand. They rarely will. Your main job is not to convince them. It is to protect yourself. They will try to make you believe that setting boundaries is selfish. They will say you don't care about them, that you are ungrateful, that you are too sensitive or too cold. But boundaries are not punishments. Boundaries are the lines that protect your mental and emotional health. They are the shape of your self-respect. They do not exist to hurt the narcissist. They exist to keep you safe. Yes, it will feel exhausting at times. You will question whether it is worth it. But the alternative is to keep living in a life where your needs are ignored, where your feelings are controlled, and where your sense of self is constantly under attack. Every time you enforce a boundary, you are taking back a part of yourself. You are teaching yourself that your needs matter. Detaching emotionally from a narcissist is one of the strongest choices you can make to reclaim your life. Narcissists need emotional reactions. They use emotions as tools for control, for manipulation, for power. The more emotionally tied you are to them, the easier it is for them to push you around. Every time you react strongly, they feel successful. Every time you try to explain, defend, or beg, they see that they still have influence over you. Emotional detachment does not mean you turn into a cold or uncaring person. It means you refuse to let someone else decide how you feel. Narcissists know how to push your buttons. If they sense you trying to pull away, they will often intensify their behavior. They might become more cruel or suddenly become very loving and apologetic. They might switch between the two to keep you off balance. This keeps you emotionally stuck. One of the biggest blocks to emotional detachment is the belief that if you could just explain yourself clearly one more time, they might finally get it. You may pour your heart out in conversations, thinking that if you show enough pain, they will change. But that never truly happens. They are not listening to understand. They are listening to control. They will twist your words, deny what happened, or put the blame back on you. The only way to win this game is not to play. Detaching emotionally means recognizing when a conversation has no real purpose other than to pull you back in. When you see that, you choose not to take part. Another trap is needing to prove your value to them. You may feel driven to show that you are loyal, good, or worthy, but a narcissist will always move the goalpost. They will always find a way to make you feel not enough, because your insecurity keeps you hooked. Detachment means you stop letting their opinion decide how you see yourself. It means that when they try to provoke you, you don't react. When they try to guilt you, you don't absorb it. When they try to drag you into a fight, you don't show up. This does not happen overnight. It takes practice. One helpful mindset is to mentally step back and become an observer instead of a participant. Instead of taking their words as truth, you notice them as patterns. You think, of course they are saying this. This is what they always say when they want control. Instead of, maybe they are right about me. Over time, their behavior stops feeling personal. You see it as part of who they are, not a sign of your worth. Letting go of expectations is another important step. Many people hold on to hope that one day the narcissist will have a breakthrough, apologize, and become different. This hope keeps you tied to them emotionally because every interaction becomes another chance for that fantasy to come true. But once you accept that they will likely never change in the way you want, detaching becomes easier. You are no longer waiting for a moment that keeps you stuck. Practicing emotional neutrality helps as well. This is where the gray rock idea comes in. You stop giving big emotional reactions. You keep your responses short, calm, and plain. They insult you, and you do not fight back. They try to start drama, and you do not add fuel. You do not reward their attempts to provoke you. This leaves them frustrated. At first, they may escalate, but in time, they realize you are no longer a good source of emotional fuel. Alongside this, self-care is vital. A narcissist often conditions you to put them first and ignore yourself. Rebuilding your sense of self means actively caring for your mind, your body, and your heart. Spending time with supportive people, doing things that bring you peace, and learning to listen to your own feelings again are all part of detaching. You may fear how they will react when you pull away emotionally. They may become more aggressive. They may play the victim harder. But their reactions are not proof that you are wrong. They are proof that they are losing control. Understanding this makes it easier to stay firm. Emotional detachment is not instant. It is a process of choosing again and again not to give them the reaction they want and choosing instead to protect your own well-being. Narcissists also depend heavily on guilt. Guilt is one of their favorite tools because it targets your empathy and your sense of responsibility. If they can make you feel guilty, they can make you say yes when you want to say no, stay when you want to leave, and explain yourself when you don't owe them anything. They will make you feel guilty for setting limits, for putting yourself first, for feeling hurt, and even for pulling away from their abuse. This guilt is not a sign that you did something wrong. It is a weapon used to control you. They will act like the victim, remind you of what they have supposedly done for you, and paint you as the selfish one. They will say you are abandoning them, that you do not care enough. They will do anything to make you doubt yourself. The more responsible and caring you are, the easier it becomes for them to shift guilt onto you. Breaking free from this requires learning to sit with guilt without acting on it. When they try to guilt trip you, pause. Ask yourself if you truly did something wrong, or if you are simply being made to feel responsible for their emotions. In most cases with narcissists, their pain is either exaggerated or self-inflicted. They create chaos and then blame you for the mess. They overstep your boundaries and then accuse you of being cold when you try to protect yourself. You do not have to explain your boundaries. You don't have to justify your no. You are allowed to protect your mental and emotional health without running your decisions past them. The moment you stop feeling the need to defend your choices to a narcissist, their power begins to collapse. You start to see that their constant suffering, drama, and chaos are not yours to solve. One of the most freeing realizations is that you can be a kind and loving person and still say no. You can care about others without allowing them to use you. You are not a bad person for refusing to be manipulated. You do not owe anyone your pain just so they can feel powerful. Narcissists thrive on emotional reactions. They push, prod, insult, and manipulate in order to get you to explode, break down, or over-explain. Every time you react, they feel validated. They see proof that they still control your inner world. The way to take that control back is to stop reacting emotionally. This does not mean you stop feeling. It means you do not show them your emotional world. You keep your emotions for yourself and for people who have earned your trust. When they try to start a fight, you choose not to engage. When they lie or twist your words, you recognize the game and refuse to play. When they withdraw to punish you, you do not chase after them. Practicing calm, flat responses and refusing to be baited makes you boring to them. They are drawn to drama. If you do not give them drama, they get less from you. It may be hard at first, especially if you are used to defending yourself. But with time, you will see that not reacting brings you more peace and puts distance between you and their chaos. Walking away from a narcissist is one of the most powerful steps you can take. They will use everything they have to pull you back. Guilt, manipulation, love bombing, anger, silent treatment. But when you truly decide to walk away, you break their control. You send a clear message: you do not own my life. The mental and emotional conditioning can make leaving very hard. They may have made you believe you cannot survive without them, that nobody else will love you, that you will be alone without them. They might have cut you off from supportive people. They might have convinced you that all the problems are your fault. But none of that is true. It is a story they built to keep you from leaving. No contact is the cleanest way to break free when possible. No texts, no calls, no checking their social media, no sending messages through others. Any small opening can become a doorway for them to re-enter. If you cannot go full no contact because of children or shared responsibilities, you can still use low contact. Communicate only when absolutely necessary. Keep it short, neutral, and factual. And do not discuss personal topics. You may still feel cravings for their approval or attention after leaving. This doesn't mean you made a mistake. It means you were conditioned. Leaving a narcissist can feel like breaking an addiction. There are ups and downs, moments of weakness, and triggers. But each time you choose not to go back, you grow stronger. You begin to see the pattern more clearly and trust yourself more. It is tempting to think you can stay a little bit in contact, maybe as friends. But with narcissists, any access can be turned into an opportunity to regain control. The safest thing is distance. Healing after leaving takes time. You will need to untangle the lies they planted in your mind. That you are not enough. That you are too much. That you are hard to love. That everything is your fault. None of that is true. The fact that you walked away proves your strength, not your weakness. It proves that despite everything they tried to make you believe, something inside you still knew you deserved better. Rebuilding your sense of self means slowly reconnecting with who you are without their voice in your head. It means finding joy in things again, letting safe people into your life, and learning to trust yourself. It means giving yourself patience and kindness as you heal. They may try to come back at some point, acting as if they have changed or pretending they want closure. But you now understand that this is just another attempt to reopen the door. You have the choice to leave it closed. Walking away is not just about leaving them. It is about walking back towards yourself. It is about choosing peace instead of chaos, self-respect instead of manipulation, truth instead of lies. It is about stepping into a life where you are no longer ruled by someone else's brokenness. Ladies and gentlemen, life is filled with suffering. That is part of the human condition. But within that suffering, there is the possibility of meaning. And meaning is often found in responsibility. Many of you have carried the responsibility of trying to reach someone who is lost in their narcissism, someone drowning in their self-importance. You tried to help them. You tried to show them a better path. You carried that weight. And when they refused to listen, you felt that pain deeply. From the beginning of time, people have been given the burden of responsibility. Every day, we face choices that either bring order or allow chaos to grow. When you try to help someone trapped in their pride and narcissism, you step into a very old role, the one who brings truth, the one who reaches out to someone lost in illusions. This is not a small task. T requires courage. It requires love. It requires a willingness to stand in the fire. It hurts to watch someone reject what could save them. It hurts to offer them clarity and see them walk away. You feel that sorrow. You wonder if you could have done more. But the truth is, you were never responsible for their decision. You were only responsible for the honesty and effort you brought. You could stand right in front of them, show them clearly where their path leads, and still, they might refuse. That choice was always theirs. Pride is one of the most destructive forces in a person's character. It blinds them to their flaws, blocks them from growth, and makes them see help as an attack. Someone full of pride doesn't see your support as love. They see it as a threat to their control. In trying to help a narcissist, you are asking them to do something they are terrified of, admit weakness, admit fault, admit they need to change. For many of them, that feels like death. You cannot force someone to give up their pride. You cannot force them to see themselves clearly. You cannot save someone who refuses to be saved. And when you try to carry the weight of their refusal, it crushes you. You begin to feel responsible for a choice that was never yours. There is a deep temptation to think that if you just cared more, tried harder, or stayed longer, things would be different. But that is how you end up destroying yourself. You are not meant to carry someone else's pride, someone else's denial. You were never meant to burn yourself out trying to force someone into the truth they are determined to avoid. Letting go does not mean you never cared. It does not mean your efforts were meaningless. It means you are finally accepting reality, that you cannot walk someone else's path for them. You cannot tear down their pride by sacrificing yourself. You were an opportunity for them. You were a moment of grace, a chance to choose a different way. They refused. That refusal is on them, not on you. Holding on to the guilt and weight of their choices will only keep you from healing. Walking away in the end is not an act of hate. It is an act of love toward yourself. It is understanding that your life also has meaning, that your energy is precious, that your heart is not an endless resource for someone who treats it carelessly. Walking away is not just about leaving their darkness. It is about walking forward into something better, into a life where your peace, dignity, and truth are finally allowed to grow.